This is the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. This platform was created for you to break those chains that have been holding you back in your life. These are true testimonies of breakthrough, and I love to bring incredible guests on who have incredible stories of breakthrough to prove that it's possible for you. Today we have the amazing Judy Kane with us on the platform. And Judy, I love to jump in with a big question right off the bat to get right to it. You know, one of the biggest fears in life is public speaking. People are so afraid of speaking in public. This was one of your biggest fears, and you've overcame this fear in your life. How did you completely do a 180 when it came to your fear of public speaking and became fully confident in your ability to talk in front of others and empower people?
That's a great question, Rob. Yeah. When I first started with my business, I had to network, right? I had to make connections because I had moved to an area where I knew nobody. And I was a little hesitant even talking in small networking groups, just that 30-second intro, right? That people do that kind of, you know, I would be counting, okay, I'm going to be in 3 and 2 and 1 and, you know, but I could get it out. And, you know, the more I did it, I got a little bit more comfortable doing it. And in one of these meetings, one of the women had a web TV show, and she was very interested in what I do, which is change subconscious beliefs, right? And she wanted me to be a guest on her show. It was an hour-long live show. And my brain was like, this is terrific. This is exactly the kind of opportunity that I need to say yes to, right? And so my mouth followed my brain's instructions and said yes. And the rest of my body was screaming, no, don't do this. So I went home and I started, you know, working with the terror that came up when I thought about doing this, so that by the time I was ready to go and be on the show, I was ready. You know, I was looking forward to it. I was calm about it. I was, you know, confident. On the drive over, I noticed there was a little bit of anxiety creeping back in. And so I took care of that before I went into the studio where we were recording. And I'm so glad I did that, because there were 6 live feeds, 2 chairs, an hour-long show. It would have been so uncomfortable for everybody involved if I hadn't been able to take care of the stress that I was feeling just at the thought of being in front of those cameras. And when I looked at it later, it was cool. I mean, it was like I enjoyed it. I didn't look ridiculous. You know, she didn't ask anything that made me freeze in front of the cameras and look like I had no idea what I was talking about. It went fine. But if I hadn't been able to do that, it would have been horrible. I mean, I've performed in front of audiences before, and it's visually very distracting for people when the person is where you can see them shake, right?
Yeah.
It's not good.
Kind of takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things, right? It's not just about being able to, it's not just about being able to public speak effectively, you know, just to get through it, but it's actually to be calm, collected, and present in the moment to really impact and empower people.
Absolutely.
Like that's the state you want to be in. And for you, this is fascinating to me, and I'm really excited about this conversation because you're all about like breaking these limiting beliefs and these beliefs we've had in our lives that hold us back from the things that we know that we want to do or things that we know that we need to do. And that's what the Unstuck movement's all about, right? This platform is about finding those breakthroughs in our lives. I've got to thank the Connected Leaders Academy for making this platform possible. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Judy Kane here today is the creator of Aligned Consciousness. She helps identify and transform limiting beliefs to support conscious goals. She hosts workshops and presents at group sessions, conferences, and retreats, and is the author of Your 4 Truths, How Beliefs Impact Your Life. So when it comes to public speaking, what were the old beliefs that you had about yourself that were keeping you from being an effective public speaker?
That's what's so interesting. Lots of times when I work with people, we don't even know what some of the beliefs are that are keeping them from whatever it is they are consciously wanting to be true for themselves, right? But they might have an emotion, a fear or anger or shame or guilt or whatever. With me, with the public speaking, it was absolute terror.
Hmm.
Um, and what was in there, how many beliefs were causing that emotion to come up, I don't know. And with what I do, I didn't need to. I worked on first of all, I worked on just getting that emotion to be neutralized, basically. And then I followed it up with some beliefs of I've got something that people want to hear, or I enjoy talking to audiences, some statements, affirmation style statements that I wanted to make sure were true for me. And so I did those as well. But when I help people change belief, if we can start with an emotion, it covers a lot more territory. Instead of having to parse through and find all these individual beliefs that might be creating that emotion.
So this is really interesting. And you and I had this conversation offline that it's really interesting. We think of like therapy and we think of coaching. When we think of therapy, we think of going back into the past and rehashing old things, which can be very helpful. And it's been very helpful for me. But coaching has also been very helpful in the sense that it is looking towards the future and creating a new version of you. And I love what you just said there, because you didn't need to go back into the past, into those old beliefs and identify what they were. You just needed to neutralize and move forward to things that you wanted to have happen. And I think that's a beautiful way of looking at this, because some people don't want to go back and relive all of the stuff of the whys. And it's actually not really all that necessary in certain cases, or maybe in all cases, to go back and have to be like, here's why this, why that, why the other thing. You don't need to have those things brought back up. You just need to have new beliefs put in place.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I like the process that I use, because frequently I work with people that have a history of trauma, and they don't have to re-traumatize themselves in the process of making the changes they want to make. We can just, change what's there. If they don't know, they don't need to. If they do, they don't need to go back and find words to tell it to me. Right. And it works really well with phobias. I mean, this is a particularly effective way of working with people with phobias, because they got that, that intense reaction to whatever it is that is causing that that emotion to come up, whether it's a snake or a spider or getting on a plane or whatever it is. And they don't usually know what causes that. Logic and data aren't making them know. People that get on a plane know it was safer to get on the plane than to drive to the airport statistically, right? I mean, right. They've had everybody tell them that. They can read it. They know it. Doesn't take away the panic. And so it's, when you can start just, removing the stress associated with whatever the concept is, and then go in and follow it up with things that are supporting, what you do want. But it's a much gentler way of getting where you want to go.
And the title of this episode, we titled this episode "Taking Out the Head Trash." You talk about this head trash that we have, and how we get rid of that. And it's interesting. So I got a visual of what the head trash, kind of the metaphor here. When you're taking out the trash in your physical life in your house, you don't have to dig through the trash in order to get rid of it. Right. It's not like I'm sorting through my trash to find, I don't want this anymore. I don't want that anymore. It's like, no, it's trash. Just get rid of it. So that's kind of like our mental say, our limiting beliefs. I don't need to dig through my limiting beliefs to get rid of them. And I think that's a beautiful way of looking at that.
Yeah. And something else, another piece of it is that trash was useful once, presumably. I mean, most people don't go out and buy something that they know they're going to go home and throw away. Right? So the beliefs might have served you well at one point in time. It might have been a way to keep you safe when you were little, or they were there for a reason. So it's not like you got something that's broken or never been any good. It's just not serving you well now.
How did this all happen for you? So I'm curious. We, as we evolve in life and as we get older, it's less likely for us to change the older we get. And for yourself, what sparked change in you? What sparked, like, I need to change, I need to grow, because I even know for myself personally, as I started to evolve in my mid to late 20s into my 30s, it's a journey of really pulling yourself out of something that you've been in for a long time, and then a decade later being like, wow, it's amazing how far I've come. But the journey is the way, but also it's so difficult, and the older we get, the harder it is to create that journey for ourselves. When you encourage people to create this change in them, what sparked that in you?
I've always been curious, and a lifelong learner, if you will. My daughters, when they were little, they could always tell when I'd gone off to a class. Yeah, I was in IT management, and so I had opportunities to get training in all sorts of things that were not technical because of the management part of it, right? And they could always tell when I'd been somewhere for a day for a class, because apparently I was using new concepts with them and they could pick it up. It was either new words or a new approach, and they thought they knew how I was going to respond. And they'd say, "You've been to another class, haven't you?" And I'd go, "Yeah, I have." Right? So I've always been interested in learning more. I did not know much about subconscious beliefs until I saw this process work on my then husband. And I was absolutely fascinated with the fact that you could have a change that was long lasting, that could make a big difference in something that you wanted to have change. And that was something that I could personally see myself doing. It's a pretty straightforward process. And I didn't need special gifts to be able to do it effectively.
Makes it seem much more real and tangible, and like it's possible for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, it is.
Not
Anybody
that
can
it's
learn
like,
how to do this. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the most powerful things in life are simple, right?
Right.
The concept really is, we hold ourselves back from a lot of the big changes we need to make in our life. But the real process is usually simple, but it's not simple a lot of the times to get ourselves out of our own way. And being a lifelong learner, I would encourage anybody, such a simple concept, being somebody who loves to learn and wants to grow and evolve. So anybody watching or listening right now, a big takeaway is just to be open and encouraging yourself to want to grow and know more, and to accept the fact that you don't know everything you could know. And that's a good thing, right? So feeling that we need to know everything is keeping us stuck in a place of pride that's keeping us from growing. So encouraging, just be okay knowing that you don't know everything, and you should want to know more. You should want to learn more, and you should want to keep going, because people get stuck there. People get really trapped in that place of thinking they know enough, or maybe it's a fear of not wanting to know more because that opens the door to being somebody who might be found out for not knowing a certain thing, right? And we might have some unconscious beliefs that if we don't know something, we're stupid. Instead, if I don't know something now, it's the opportunity to learn.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Yeah.
So as you've gone on this journey, how many years has it been now since you found this breakthrough with your husband? How many years has it been?
That was, and I saw this change happen with him in 2009.
Okay.
It took 5 minutes. He had a pain. This friend of his got rid of it in less than 5 minutes. It didn't come back. I could see what was happening. So I signed up. My first workshop for learning how to do it myself was in 2011.
And what was the workshop? What are you referring to?
Okay, so the process I use is called Psych K, Psych, like the beginning of psychology, -K. It's been around since the 80s, and it's a fast change process for subconscious beliefs.
Is the K kinesiology? Is that what the K
It's
stands for?
actually the key because this is making changes in the mind, soul, spirit, body. It's like a holistic type of because they're all connected, right? So you can have subconscious beliefs that are causing a pain, like they were for my then husband. Um, they can be keeping you uh, emotionally distraught. They can, the subconscious beliefs can be doing a lot of things
Mhm.
against your conscious goals. So this kind of pulls the changes together in a whole way.
So as you saw this happen for your husband, what changes happened in you that you were like, all right, it's time for me to go forward with this. I got to
Yeah.
break some of these things and rewire some of this stuff. What happened for you from that, seeing that experience with your husband?
Well, have you ever seen something that you just knew you needed to know more about? I mean, you've just got this, that is so cool reaction to something, right? Well, that's what I
Yeah.
had with this one, because usually, because he had a lot of friends that knew a lot of ways to do a lot of things. Most of them did things that they was interesting, and I thought it was great they could, but it didn't look like anything that I would want to tackle myself, right? This was something that I could see the potential of it, and I could see that it was something I could do. And I was just hooked, really. So I went to the first workshop. That wasn't enough. I went to the next level. I went to the next level. I mean, I've taken all the workshops they offer um, because I just wanted to know more about what you could do with it. Just fascinated me.
Yeah. And as you watch other people grow and change and evolve and take them on that journey, the breakthroughs and the breakthroughs that you get to witness from them empower you and encourage you so much more to move forward. And that's one of the things when people ask, why coaching, or why do you make it a mission to, be of service or to help people? Well, I love seeing people change because I know how much it's helped me to change and to grow and to be open-minded and learn new things. And as you see that happen for others, it's addicting to see other people succeed, to see other people be impacted. It's one of the most fulfilling things in life is just to witness other people experience growth, and that you were able to
Yes,
plant those seeds.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, most of my career was spent in IT management. And, the parts that I enjoyed the most were watching team members who had a goal, they wanted to get to a different department to do something, or they wanted to acquire a new skill, or, those were the things that were fun for me to watch then. And this is that's the only thing I do now is help people go where they want to go. Right? So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, help them figure out that journey. That's amazing. So we have to jump into a quick sponsor break for 60 seconds. When we come back, though, I'm curious for you on this. Something in your life that is now a gift that you used to see as a curse in your life, right? So something that used to be such a roadblock and a challenge for you that now you see as this amazing gift that you are able to help the world with. I want to dive into that subject and what that's been for you. We'll talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Judy, I find this journey that you've gone through amazing, and the amazing results you've found with Site K so profound. It's really an interesting thing to learn more about personally from you, and just to hear you talk about these transformations that you've experienced. And I think in life, there's a lot of things we look at when we're younger is like, this thing is a curse for me, but now it's become a gift that I'm supposed to be helping other people with. For me, the curse for me was like being way too sensitive when I was younger, which caused me a lot of problems, right? But the older I get, the more I realize what a gift that is to be sensitive to people, to situations, to ideas, to feelings. And if you use it correctly, it's an amazingly powerful gift. What for you was a curse that you could say now it's become a great gift?
I've been thinking all through the commercial what that is. I don't know that I thought of anything as a curse, but I think I accepted some things as true that now aren't. So I'm going to twist it just a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do.
I had no idea what the impact of the subconscious was on my interpretation of the world. So, you see things, everybody does this. They've got their own filters, their own, all the beliefs are causing you to interpret yourself and other people's behaviors and events in the world based on those subconscious beliefs, right? It controls 95% of our behavior. It's the way we interpret everything pretty much, except when we're consciously focusing on doing it a specific way. So it's our default system. And I had no idea about that. So there were lots of things that I interpreted as maybe taking it too personally, because, when somebody else is acting out, you tend to think it's your fault, or it's based on something you've done, or, it's not like, well, that's just them. Right. That's a hard space to learn how to create. And you tend to assume that the way you are is the way you will always be, because it's all you've known, right? If you get into the same types of relationships, you might not know why you always end up in the same one, but it's going to keep repeating. In some cases, if that's the way your subconscious is thinking relationships are supposed to be going, right? Yeah. So changing that perspective, which is one of the big messages I have when I speak, is, people say, well, it's just the way I am. I can't change that. Everybody in my family's like this, or I've never been any good at this other thing, or it's just how I am. And you accept those limits without understanding that you can change those. It's just the subconscious beliefs that are creating that reality for you. And so if you want it to be different, even if you don't know how to, knowing that that's a possibility, that you have options out there that can truly change the whole way you're experiencing certain aspects of the world, is a very empowering place to be.
Yeah, I can think back to when I was in my early and mid 20s, and I would say sentences like, this is me. I can't change. Like, this is who I am. And some people just have to kind of deal with me, right? I didn't necessarily like the way that I was, but I didn't think that it was possible for me to change. And so if you were going to be around me or be with me, then you kind of had to deal with the way that I was, because I had to deal with me. I didn't like it, but I had to deal with it, right?
Yeah. And
it's interesting to look back and think, like, my perception of what was possible was so limited. And that's those limiting. Sometimes people get confused by what limiting beliefs even mean. It's like we limit, because we all still have limiting beliefs, right? We're always limited by where we think we can go, or what we can do, or what's possible. And that could be somebody who's they could be incredibly successful, but they're still limited in some way, shape, or form until they break through those beliefs that they have. And I think those beliefs, I'm curious if you feel this way. Do you think limited beliefs continue on even as you have a breakthrough and you get to a new level? Then there's more limiting beliefs in place that you have to get through that level to reach another level. And there's always like another layer of limit that is possible to break, but you have to be able to acknowledge it, accept it, and be aware of it. Do you think that's true?
I do, and just being able to pick out what a limiting belief is. When I first learned how to do this, I wasn't very good at not pointing it out to people, and they didn't really want to know they had limiting beliefs. They weren't coming to me as clients. They were just talking to me, and it's like, well, there's a limiting belief, right? I still have that voice in my head, but I don't engage my mouth that often unless somebody has asked for that, opinion.
Yeah.
But you hear them all over the place. So you hear it about all sorts of restrictions, old age isn't for the faint of heart, right? Or what does that mean? You don't have to, have a certain birthday and then go sit in a chair in a corner for the rest of your life. But some people do, right? It's like they expect that it's going to be painful and limiting and hard when you get older. And that's what happens for them because that's what they expect. But yeah, I think there are always breakthroughs. The thing is, you don't need to change them all. It's just if things aren't happening the way you want them to happen, that's where you start exploring. What would you rather have be different for you? That's what I have the conversation with people about. They come to me because something isn't working the way they want it to. And so, you pick the thing that's bothering you and you figure out what you'd rather it be experiencing, and then you work to change the beliefs for that. And maybe that's the only thing. They're not going to change things that they don't want to be different. There's no point in that because some of those limiting beliefs are, work fine for them.
Yeah, and I love the question that you posed right there. What would you rather have be different for you, right? And that's a question if you ask yourself that question, some things are going to come up, right? But it also takes that level of self-awareness. And I wanted this for yourself because I would imagine the hardest part of getting anybody to break a limiting belief, and well, not that I would imagine, I know this is the case, is being able to identify it, number one. Being able to have enough humility to be like, okay, this is who I am and this is what I want to change. But being intentional about that and being able to actually like articulate it and say it out loud, because it can be hard to identify it when you've been living with it for so long. How do you help somebody identify something? Say they're in their 40s or 50s and they've been being a certain way their whole life and they know they need to change. They come to you to change, but they still don't know what the thing is that they need to change. How do you help them to identify it?
Well, that's the first thing. They come in, it's like, why are you here, right? I mean, presumably they don't book a session with me unless they want something to be different. And so they'll talk about what they are experiencing that they don't like. But when I ask them, well, what do you want to be true? A lot of times they don't know the answer. They've been making choices based on fear, or what they want to avoid, but they haven't really thought about what is it they would really rather have happening in their life. And so that can be a depending on the person, it can take a little bit of a conversation or a longer conversation as they kind of figure out, well, what do I really want? But once we get to that, then it's a matter of, so if this is what you want to be true, let's figure out what some of the beliefs need to be for that to be real for you, right? And then the change part's really straightforward. That's it's usually less than 5 minutes to change any one belief. It's identifying what you want and what are the beliefs that you need to put that in place, because sometimes it's not that obvious. You can have somebody who wants their business to grow better, and they could have several beliefs that are in the way they could have conflicting money beliefs. They could have grown up where, for one reason or another in their family, people who had a lot of money weren't held in high regard, right? And you could have a belief that in order for a business to be successful, you have to work 24/7. And you could, if you believe that and you also have other priorities in your life, your subconscious is going to be protecting you from that, constant working on the business. So you need to change that to be, I can have a successful business and still have a balanced life, right? So there's so many things that can go into a situation. And you never really, it's not like, well, if this is the outcome, these are the beliefs contributing. There's no I haven't found okay, you get 3 of these beliefs and 2 of these, and that's going to take care of the issue. Everybody's got different beliefs that are creating the situation for them. So it's an exploration of how many things are getting in the way of this truth for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know whenever you and I talked initially and you were asking me to describe some of the limiting beliefs, I really had to go through a few iterations of what the sentence was to really try to get to the heart of what it was that was the limiting belief. And one of the big things that I did come to was that, and I told you this, that I've always felt like I don't know enough to be the expert in one of the things that I'm doing to make the amount of money that would warrant an expert's income or something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
But just like this idea that I'm not quite there yet. Right. And that's a limiting belief, not just in business, but it's like in a general kind of way of like not having arrived yet. And since you haven't arrived, you're not allowed to experience success. Right. And that's clearly a limiting belief because clearly it's not true. There's people who have far less experience than me who are far more successful. So recognizing like, oh, that's definitely something that's limiting me that I could like, as I sat there and thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, that comes up on a regular basis. And I love the way when you're working with somebody, you really encourage them to take the time to figure out what it is and how to say it. Number one, right? Because it's not just like having the idea in your head, it's being able to verbalize it. And that's a big piece of the journey. We can have like a rough idea in our head of what the problem is, but you have to be able to, okay, how important is it for the person who has the limiting belief to be able to formulate it into a very clear and concise sentence that is true?
That's a big, big part of it, because if you can't get clear on what you want, it's like if you have a map and don't know where you're starting from, right? Or if you don't know where you're going, right? I mean, you got to know both things. You've got to figure out how to get to where you want to be from where you are. And so the clarity of it. And sometimes I have seen, when I give presentations and stuff, people always want to know what can they do at home, right? And so getting very clear about what they want and thinking of examples of how that looks with a lot of details sometimes can shift that subconscious belief on its own. You don't need to go and, find somebody to help with that. So sometimes that works.
So if somebody wants to find out more about how you do what you do, they can check out the website, which you can see below right there, alignedconsciousness.com. But if you go to alignedconsciousness.com/resources, you go to that resources page. What should people expect when they go there? If they want to see how this process works, if they want to find out in 5 minutes how to be able to reshape these limiting beliefs, is that something that they can get more information about at the resources page? Do you book a call with yourself? How does that go?
All right. So on the resources page, they're just some free downloads. If you want to know more about subconscious beliefs, how they can show up, that type of thing, or sign up for my newsletter. There are a bunch of links there for free resources to learn more. And there are lots of things all over the website for more information, but that's specifically for downloads and for, studying more about it. You can also book a 15-minute free call with me if you got questions about the things. I don't think those downloads in and of themselves have specific 1, 2, 3, here's what to do in them, but there's information to help you understand more about how subconscious works.
But they can set up a call with you and have that discussion.
Sure.
Very cool.
Yeah. More questions about how it works, or, would it work for me? Those are the types of things people usually ask when we call. And I love talking to people about it.
It's very interesting, and I really enjoyed having our conversation. I've also really enjoyed this conversation. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I really love the fact that you are so willing to help and be able to show up for people and serve people the way that you do. Is there anything that you want to leave us with before we end this episode?
Just please, if things aren't going the way you want, know that you've got the power to change these things. Don't accept being limited and smaller than what you would like to be.
I love that. That's so good. Judy, thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.